My name is Marin Blakely. I am 68 years old. I had not planned to visit my daughter that morning. I woke up before sunrise, the way I often did now, and sat at my kitchen table staring at the phone, waiting for Nora to call me back. Our last conversation had ended too quickly. She sounded tired, distracted, and when I asked if she was eating properly, she snapped that she was fine. I had muttered something about her working herself into the ground, and the line went quiet. Then she said she had to go. That was 4 days ago. By mid-morning, the silence felt heavier than usual. I had prepared a small box of pastries the night before the cranberry walnut ones she loved in college, and told myself I would only stay for a minute, just long enough to see her face, to know she was all right, to apologize properly. A mother never stops trying, even when the child is grown. The drive to Selwood was familiar, almost comforting. But the moment I turned onto her street, something inside me tightened. Her porch light glowed, even though daylight was strong. The curtains were pulled shut, darker than I remembered. 2 small delivery packages gathered dust near the steps. Nora was meticulous. Nothing was ever left outside for long. I tried to brush off the feeling clawing at my chest, but it followed me as I climbed the steps. I held the box of pastries against my ribs and reached for the doorknob. The metal felt warm, as if touched recently. Before I could turn the knob, a voice sliced through the stillness. "Stop!" I jerked my head toward the yard next door. A woman, mid-50s. Short, gray-streaked hair was running toward me. Her shoes slapped the pavement, her hands waving wildly as if trying to push me back without touching me. "Please," she gasped, breath catching in her throat. "Do not open that door." Her face was pale, almost stricken. And for a long moment, neither of us moved. The pastries trembled in my hands. The woman looked at the door, then back at me, as though something inside that house had been haunting her for days. I tightened my grip on the box, unable to speak. She stepped up onto the porch, still shaking. "Marin, we need to talk." The woman steadied herself on the porch rail, her breath ragged. "I am Julia Barrington," she said. "I live right next door." She looked at the doorknob, then at me. "You cannot go inside, Marin." Her voice carried a tremor I could not ignore. I lowered the pastries to my side. "Tell me what is going on." Julia swallowed hard. 3 nights ago, I heard yelling from inside the house, but I waited until the next morning to be sure something was wrong. Not the kind of shouting from a bad phone call. This was different. She pressed a hand to her chest. Then I heard something crash, something heavy. My mouth went dry. "You knocked, I did." She nodded quickly. I knocked until my hand hurt. No one answered. It went completely silent. Her fingers twisted together. I stayed on my porch for a long time, listening. I thought maybe they had just worked it out. I felt my heartbeat rise. Nora would have told me if something was wrong. Julia shook her head. At dawn the next morning, I saw someone leaving. A man, moving fast, looking around like he did not want to be noticed. She hesitated. It was not Nora. She whispered. A cold ache spread through me. "Evan." "Are you saying it was Evan? I do not know," she whispered. He kept his hood up. I could not see his face. "And you did not call anyone." My voice cracked. A mix of fear and rising anger. "I almost did," Julia said, tears gathering, "but without proof. And Nora has always been private. I thought maybe I had misunderstood." She wrapped her arms around herself. But when no one came or went for days, I realized something might be very wrong. I looked toward the door again. The silence inside pressing against my skin. "Marin," Julia said softly, "I do not think Nora could call you." I fumbled for my phone with hands that did not feel like mine. "I am calling 911, I said. Though my voice barely carried, Julia nodded, tears streaking down her face. When the dispatcher answered, the words tumbled out of me. My daughter. No contact for days. Neighbor heard shouting. Door unresponsive. Within minutes, a police cruiser turned onto the street, lights pulsing silently. 2 officers stepped out, their movements quick and decisive. One of them, a tall woman with a firm but calm tone, approached us. You are the mother, I nodded. Her name is Nora Blakely. She is inside. I cannot get her to answer. The officer tried the knob. Locked. She knocked hard, announcing herself, waited, then shook her head. We are making entry. I stepped back as they forced the door. The crash of it giving way echoed through my body. The officers disappeared inside, their boots cutting across the floor. I hovered on the threshold, unable to move forward, unable to step away. Marin, Julia whispered, standing close behind me. I am so sorry. I should have called sooner. I should have... A shout came from inside. We found her. My knees buckled. I gripped the doorframe and forced myself inside. The living room was a chaos I had never seen in Nora's home. A lamp lay shattered across the rug. A week's worth of mail fanned across the floor. Some envelopes torn. A chair was tipped on its side as if someone had fallen against it. Nothing about the scene felt accidental. The officers were already at the foot of the stairs. Nora lay curled slightly on her side, her hair matted against her cheek, her breathing shallow and uneven. One officer knelt beside her, speaking into his radio. Consciousness unclear, possible head injury. We need medics. I tried to go to her, but another officer held out an arm. Ma'am, please let them work. I just need to touch her, I said, my voice barely more than air, but he shook his head gently. The medics arrived moments later. Their efficiency was a blur, checking her pulse, stabilizing her neck, lifting her onto a stretcher. When I saw the bruising along her temple, something inside me cracked. My daughter, my bright and stubborn Nora, limp in their arms like a child. As they carried her out, Julia pressed both hands to her mouth, shaking. Marin, I am so sorry. I followed the stretcher down the steps, each one feeling like it might give way under me. The house behind us sat in unnatural silence, as if holding its breath. Nora came to slowly, her eyelids fluttering as if each blink cost her effort. I was already standing beside the bed, gripping the rail so tightly my fingers ached. When her gaze finally settled on me, confusion clouded her expression. Mom. Her voice was thin, scraped raw. Why? Why are you here? You were hurt, I said gently. They found you at the bottom of your stairs. She winced and touched the bandage near her temple. I fell. That is all it was. I must have slipped. A nurse adjusting Nora's IV paused, her eyes flicking to me, then to Nora, skeptical, silent. Another nurse lingering near the door stiffened slightly at Nora's words. Nora, I whispered, leaning closer. Your living room was torn apart. The lamp was broken. There were things everywhere. She blinked hard, panic flickering at the edges. I was reorganizing. It got messy. Mom, please. It is nothing. Julia heard shouting. I said. She heard something crash. Nora's breathing hitched. She should not have been listening. She always exaggerates. Her voice sharpened, then cracked. Mom, I told you I fell. What about Evan, I asked. Where is he? Has he come to check on you? Her reaction was immediate. Do not drag him into this. She tried to sit up, wincing. He did not do anything. He would never hurt me. Both nurses exchanged quick glances, tight. Knowing looks I had seen before on medical staff who had heard too many explanations that did not fit the injuries in front of them. Nora, I murmured, trying to stay calm. You do not have to protect anyone. Her eyes filled, not with anger, but with fear. Mom, please, do not make this bigger than it is. I am begging you." Her hand trembled as she reached for mine. I hesitated, then took it, feeling her pulse racing beneath her skin. "Fine," I said quietly. "We will talk later. Rest now." But inside, nothing felt fine at all. Julia arrived at the hospital just after noon, clutching her purse as if it could steady her shaking hands. The moment she saw me in the hallway, she broke into tears. "Marin, I cannot stop thinking about it," she whispered. "I should have called someone sooner." I guided her to a quiet corner. "Just tell me what you know." She took a long breath, opened her phone, and tapped a file. "I recorded this the night it happened. I did not mean to spy, I was scared." The audio played through the small speaker, Nora's voice, tight with fear. A man shouting back. Something shattering. Then a heavy thud that made my stomach twist. Julia flinched as the sound echoed between us. "She would come home looking shaken," Julia said softly. Sometimes her sleeves were pulled down in the middle of summer. I asked once if she was all right. She wiped her eyes. She begged me not to get involved. Said she could handle it. I stared at her phone, unable to speak. My daughter had been living beside help. She felt she could not take. "Marin," Julia whispered. "I thought she would tell you if it was serious." I swallowed hard. She did not want me to worry. A detective approached, asking permission to copy the recording. Julia handed over the phone with trembling fingers. "We are looking for Evan," the detective said. "This helps." As he walked away, Julia turned back to me, her voice small and breaking. "There is more, isn't there? Things she never said." The detective returned that afternoon with a laptop tucked under his arm. His face was set in a way that made my stomach drop before he even spoke. "Mrs. Blakely," he said quietly. "We pulled the porch camera footage from Ms. Barrington's device. There is something you need to see." Julia stood beside me, wringing her hands. I felt her breath hitch as the detective opened the video. The screen showed Julia's porch familiar, still, harmless. But when he enlarged the frame, the reflection in Nora's front window became unmistakable. Evan stood inside the living room. His posture was rigid, shoulders hunched forward as he pointed at Nora. Her hands were raised slightly, not in anger, but in defense. Even in the grainy reflection, the tension punched through the image. She was trying to walk away. The detective murmured, "Watch here." Evan stepped toward her. Nora backed up, glancing toward the staircase. Then his arms swung not a strike, not quite, but a forceful shove delivered with the flat of his palm. Nora staggered. I heard Julia gasp. I felt my own breath stop. Nora's body hit something out of frame, and the sound captured faintly through the reflection was the same sickening thud I had heard in Julia's audio. Her figure crumpled near the stairs. Evan froze. For a moment, he just stared at her, not shocked, not horrified, just calculating, as if deciding what to do next. Then he turned, stepped over something on the floor, walked out of the frame and out of the house. The door closed behind him with a soft, indifferent finality. The detective paused the video, letting the silence settle around us. My hands trembled against my knees as if trying to hold the world steady. "He left her there," I whispered. My voice cracked, thin and hollow. He saw her fall and he left her. Julia pressed a hand to my shoulder, but I barely felt it. "We have issued a bulletin for Evan." The detective said, "Every patrol car in the county has his photo. We will find him." I nodded, though the room felt distant. Nora's fear, her silence, her trembling words. They all made sense now. I closed my eyes, sinking into the chair as the truth settled like a stone in my chest. 2 days after the footage surfaced, the detective called. His tone was clipped, businesslike, but I heard the weight beneath it. "We found Evan. He checked into a cheap motel in Gresham under a different name. If you want to be present during questioning, you can It will be supervised. I agreed before he finished the sentence. The motel room smelled faintly of damp carpet. Evan sat on the edge of the bed, hands cuffed, eyes darting between the officers and me. He looked smaller than I remembered, but the arrogance in his expression had not faded. "Marin," he sighed, as if this were all a misunderstanding. Nora overreacted. You know how she gets when she is stressed. I tried to calm her down. I stared at him until he finally shifted uncomfortably. "I saw the footage," I said. My voice surprised me, steady, cold, as if the words had been waiting inside me for years. "You shoved her. She hit something. You watched her fall," he scoffed. "It was an argument. Couples argue. She tripped. You have no idea what she was dealing with. You left her there," I said. The words came out with a tremor, not of fear, but of fury. She was unconscious on the floor. "And you walked out. You stepped over her and closed the door." Evan's jaw twitched. I panicked. I thought she would get up. I did not want things to escalate. The detective cut in. "You did not call 911. You did not tell anyone what happened. You disappeared." Evan's eyes hardened. "I was protecting myself." I felt something inside me calcify. "You were protecting nothing. You abandoned her." The officer nearest him gave a small nod, then pulled Evan to his feet. The cuffs clinked softly as he was led toward the door. "Evan Walsh," the detective announced. "You are under arrest for assault and abandonment, resulting in severe bodily harm. Charges will be filed today." Evan did not look back. I stepped aside, letting the officers pass, and the silence that followed pressed deep into my ribs. Outside the room, I finally exhaled, the air shaking in my chest as if my body had only just remembered how to breathe. The weeks that followed moved slowly, measured by the rhythm of hospital routines and the soft beeping of machines beside Nora's bed. Her migraines came in waves. The dizziness hit without warning. The bruises along her ribs and back darkened, then faded, then bloomed again in places I had not noticed before. Each new mark felt like another truth I had failed to see. I slept in the same chair every night. At 68, my joints protested, but I stayed. Whenever Nora stirred or winced in her sleep, I reached for her hand. Sometimes she pulled away without waking, as if bracing for something that was no longer there. One afternoon, after the physical therapist left, Nora stared at the ceiling for a long time before speaking. "Mom," she whispered, "I need to tell you something." I closed the magazine in my lap. "I am here." Her chin trembled. It did not start with him shoving me. It started long before that. Little things, comments, keeping track of where I was, getting angry if I spent money on the wrong groceries. She swallowed hard. I kept making excuses. I told myself it was stress, or that I was being sensitive. My throat tightened. "You were not." Nora's eyes filled. "I stayed because I was embarrassed. I am 36 years old and I let someone make me feel worthless. I thought if I told you, you would look at me differently." She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "I thought I should be stronger." I leaned closer. "Strength is not pretending nothing is wrong. Strength is surviving long enough to ask for help." She shook her head. "I did not ask. You had to find me." I squeezed her hand gently. "And I will keep finding you." A week later, the hospital social worker sat with us, suggesting counseling sessions. Nora hesitated at first, then agreed. The first session left her shaking, but she went back. By the third, she could look the therapist in the eye. One evening, after another slow walk down the hallway, Nora said, "I cannot go back to that house, not even for a day. Then we will not." I told her, "We will find somewhere new." For the first time since the night she was found, she nodded without fear tightening her shoulders. Nora's new apartment was small, but sunlight poured through the windows as if the place had been waiting for her. I carried in the last box and set it on the floor, rubbing the ache in my knees. If I sit down, I said, breathless, I may not get up again. Nora laughed quiet. Real. You said that after the first box. Because it was true the first time, I replied, easing onto the edge of her couch, still wrapped in plastic. We spent the afternoon assembling furniture. I held the legs of a small dining table while Nora tightened the screws. Halfway through, I felt something pop in my shoulder and hissed through my teeth. You okay? She asked. I am old, not fragile. I said, hand me the next piece. She smiled, a softness in her eyes I had not seen in years. A knock sounded at the door. Julia stepped in holding a small plant in a ceramic pot. For the new place, she said, something steady, something that survives even when you forget to water it. Her smile wavered. But there was no guilt behind it now, only warmth. Nora hugged her carefully. Thank you for not giving up on me. Julia touched her cheek. You did the brave part. Later, after Evan's arrest and the restraining order papers were finalized and stacked neatly on the counter, Nora stepped onto the balcony. The sky was turning gold, the city humming beneath us. I joined her. Leaning on the railing, she exhaled slowly, as if releasing months' worth of fear. Mom, she said, her voice steady. I am finally okay. I slipped my arm around her shoulders. You are more than okay. You are home. We stood there until the last of the light faded, the quiet around us no longer frightening, but peaceful. If you want to support more stories like ours, please remember to like and subscribe. It truly helps keep these moments alive.